What's up everyone, AdJack here. This past week I had the pleasure of trying out the Titan Quest 2 demo. That's right, almost 20 years after the original Titan Quest released, we are close to a sequel. And last week they opened up a demo by invite only, which you can request through Steam. As soon as I got the demo code sent to me, man, I was excited to jump in. So without further ado, let's talk Titan Quest 2. First thing you do, of course, is create your character, and I mean actually create a character. There are no starting classes or masteries, you choose those later on, so instead, it seems like you'll be able to create whatever character you want. Right now it's a bunch of presets, so you choose one and start the demo. But since this is one of the few ARPGs where you get to create your own character, I decided to try something new and make an Amazon spear fighter lady like the Amazon from D2, a Wheelish from Smite, or Nidalee for you old League of Legends fans. I picked this awesome female preset, got super close to hitting create, and then my wife walked into my office and I got really nervous for some reason and really quickly changed it back to the douchiest bro dude I could find. You start the game on a cliff overlooking a small shrine, which I think does a lot to set the stage for what the game will be. You can tell that the areas are gorgeous, and way in the back here you can see a small glowing treasure chest. The game is inviting you to find your way there, giving you the notion that there will be rewards for going off the main pathway. And so far, that's kind of the summary of what Titan Quest 2 seems to be. An RPG with action combat where you build the character you want and embark on a journey taking place within an open world. Now mind you, the demo only gives you access to the tutorial island or the prologue area, so the extent of that exploration is fairly limited. But as I was going through the story, I did end up completing the side quest I found after saving this jar from a dead body ravaged by wolves. In Titan Quest 2, you will encounter side quests just by exploring the world and interacting with people and things. This jar actually called to me while I was walking on the road, and it ended up sending me on a side path through a spider cave to place the jar on an altar. The jar then gave me a rare weapon it was concealing somehow, and as I was leaving, it started pleading with Hermes to let it out of the jar. Just a side note, but everything here is voice acted, and it's done pretty well. The quest dialogue, the cutscenes, the side quests, and NPCs.
Which god gave you those gifts?
Not bad, especially for a demo. The main quest has you hunting down a griffin that is terrorizing the local villagers. You follow this lady who happens to be your mentor of many years. Not a lot of backstory given to you here, but you don't really need to know much for now, so you head off with her to a shrine, and she tells you to touch the shiny stone and see how it reacts to you. This is a Shrine of Divine Mastery, and this is what gives you your Mastery specialization. We have 3 masteries in the demo: Earth, Storm, and Warfare. Earth is the Fire and Ground Slam mastery, providing the Fiery Earth skill Magma Blast and the Slam skill Fissure. Storm is the Ice and Lightning mastery, giving you access to a projectile attack called Ice Shards and a Lightning Strike skill aptly named Call Lightning. Warfare is the Warfare mastery, specializing in weapon damage and physical attacks. You get access to Heavy Strike, a strong single target weapon attack, and Sweeping Strike, a sweeping AoE weapon attack. Masteries are incredibly simple to understand. You basically get 2 sets of points, one set is for your active skills and the other is for your passive skills. You can put multiple points into an active or passive skill to raise its power level, and after putting enough points in, you'll unlock traits that you can give to that active or passive skill. Less interesting are the passive skills, which grant you feats. Feats seem to be large amounts of additional stats, so they'll be extremely important to making your build, I'm sure. More fun are the active skills, which when you put points into them, you start to unlock slots for modifiers. Each skill has modifiers unique to that skill, with each modifier requiring a certain amount of modifier slots to equip. These modifiers change your skill in some way, either providing more damage, more ailment chances, extra projectiles, whatever it may be. These modifiers are going to be hugely important in determining how you play your skill. As an example, with my beefy warrior character, I wanted to play a Fire God War Axe build. I chose Fissure as my main skill and modified it to also spawn lava, which did extra fire damage to enemies caught in it. I also took this other modifier that added an additional fissure that made my damage zone a fiery cone. If you don't want to put a point into an active skill and you would rather upgrade your base skills like your basic attack, your dodge, or your barrier, you can invest some points to add modifiers to those as well. The simplicity in this mastery tree will make for some amazingly fun builds to try without too much of a headache of trying to understand the stats, but it allows for enough modification to get your mind working at all the different combinations of skills and modifiers that you can come up with. Especially because later in this tutorial, you unlock the ability to get a second mastery. Getting a second mastery allows you to mix and match the skills and passive from both trees, and this opens up so many more possibilities. If you've played the original Titan Quest, or more recently if you've played Grim Dawn, then you'll recognize the ability to get dual masteries. My big warrior dude was dual Earth and Warfare. My douchey mage bro was Storm and Earth. This has to be my favorite part about Grim Dawn, and so far, it's made me replay this short demo a couple times just to try out the different combinations. I can't wait until they add more masteries and really open up the possibilities. Once you beat the tutorial boss, you get divine points, which go into this track over here, which unlocks the next tier of abilities and passives for that specific mastery, and that'll continue to be the trade-off. You only get a certain amount of points per level, so you have to decide which mastery to invest in at which point in order to optimize your build and get the skills you want. That being said, you can respec at any time for a gold cost, so let your theory crafting mind go wild. The stats are pretty simple as well, basically giving you 4 main stats to choose from and 3 specialized stats. Putting points into Vigor pretty much raises everything slightly and gives you health. Knowledge, Might, and Agility are used to equip certain armor and will increase the specialized stats next to them. Fitness, Cunning, and Resolve increase damage with weapons and abilities that use their specific damage types. You get 10 points per level and increases are in increments of 5. Also, you can't respec these, at least not right now. A bit more permanent, it seems. So the mastery system is great, but how does that translate into combat? Well, it's pretty good. It's not amazingly smooth, but it's definitely got some weight to it. As with all ARPGs, you start off pretty weak, but your power starts to ramp up pretty quickly after getting your first mastery. It's a demo, so obviously things aren't going to be super balanced right now, but just as a side note, by the time I got to the campaign boss, my Fire God Battle Mage was much stronger than my Douchey Bro Elementalist, but never did I feel like something was completely unbeatable. I beat the Griffin boss with whatever build I had, and even though it was hard, I didn't feel like it was because the skills were off or the combat mechanics were bad. I just suck at games sometimes. The boss encounter had boss abilities that made for some intense dodging, which, by the way, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like we need an option to be able to dodge in the way our character is moving and not dodge towards the mouse cursor every time. More like momentum dodging. Sometimes my character is moving away, but my cursor is aiming at the next thing I want to hit, so I end up dodging right back into the enemy. Overall, the boss was a joy to kill and not easy to beat. I actually felt pretty accomplished after taking it down the first time, and that's just the tutorial island boss. After you beat the Griffin, the main evil of the game comes down and tries to kill you, and she seems pretty cool. They are doing a great job of hyping up what I can only assume is the big end of the campaign boss. Normal enemies can be pretty threatening too, actually. Not super difficult to beat or anything, but if you aren't careful or if you don't use your dodge and barrier, you can run out of health fairly quickly. So even though it's Tutorial Island, it does feel like the enemies are dangerous and you can't just run around blasting everything into oblivion. At least not yet. Moving on to loot. The loot drops are frequent, but there isn't much variety right now. It seems like the game will have the standard white common, blue magic, yellow rare item structure with your normal armor and weapon slots. Helmet, shoulders, knees, and toes, 2 rings, an amulet, and 2 weapon slots, 1 for main hand and 1 for offhand. It also looks like you're going to be able to equip new potion bottles, even though none dropped while I played the demo. My only complaint about the loot right now is that there isn't much variety, which may be due to the fact that there are only 3 masteries right now, so there really isn't a need for too much variation, and maybe they'll add more once the game releases into early access. There are 3 types of gear that I ran into. The Magos type, which is like armored mage gear, the Silos type, which seems to be a lightweight finesse style of armor, and the Hipparch type, which is the heavy plated armor for warrior type characters. Pretty standard stuff. As for weapons, you have your melee weapons, one-handed swords and shields, one-handed daggers, two-handed spears and axes, fire, lightning, and ice staves for mages and bows for rangers. A bit more variety here. For a demo, they definitely get a pass for not having hundreds of different loot options though. I would assume that over the course of the campaign, you would find more variety in armor types, maybe more visually exciting ones. That would be an indication of your progression and power gain. Okay, so overall, Titan Quest 2 is looking really good, but I just wanted to call out one specific thing that I didn't like, and keep in mind this is a demo, so things are definitely going to change. Technical performance. I played on the lowest graphical setting I could easily find and turned my upscaler all the way down to what's called Ultra Performance. That's the only way I could get away from stuttering frame rate drops. I have a GeForce RTX 3070, and I can play most games with at least medium quality, even when I'm blasting in the craziness of PoE or Last Epoch Endgame. But for some reason, I can only handle the lowest of graphical settings on Titan Quest 2. You may not experience the same problem on your hardware, just something to keep in mind. Okay, now for some rapid fire to close out the video. As you explore throughout the world, there are many secrets that give you more loot by interacting with those things. These little secrets end up giving you extra loot, which may or may not be that rare or new to you, but it is cool that these secrets are out there. The in-game cutscenes are really pretty. The last one where Nemesis comes down is really cool, and it ends up going to a pretty cinematic chase scene after that. The music and sound design are done really well. Brings the world alive. I honestly haven't felt this immersive in an ARPG world since maybe Grim Dawn. PoE2 does it well also. I also like how vendors are pretty important. There's a lot of good loot you can find just by buying it off the vendor in the village. And that's pretty much all I can say about Titan Quest 2 right now. It was a pretty short demo, just a tutorial really, but I was pretty surprised about how polished it felt. The systems are solid and the combat feels fine. It feels like a great base to an ARPG adventure. There were some technical performance issues here and there, some frame rate drops that I had to fix by dropping my graphics settings to low, but I feel like those are things that can be fixed over time. What do you think of what you see so far? Does this seem like something you'd be interested in trying? Do you feel like this may be a worthy sequel to the ARPG classic so long ago? Let me know in the comments. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe for more content just like this. I hope you're hyped for a dive into ancient Greek mythology, and I can't wait to see what we talk about next.
Which god gave you those gifts?